Hey team, it's time for an early career designer's portfolio review. I'm Megan Thomas and I'm a senior UX designer with almost 10 years of experience in enterprise software design. I've taught and mentored over 300 early career designers through UC Berkeley's UX UI Design Bootcamp. In this video, I'm going to review an early career designer's portfolio and share my thoughts as a senior designer. My goal is to provide actionable feedback to help them succeed as they look for a job in the UX industry. Join me for a stream of consciousness walkthrough as I assess one of their case studies. Remember, mine is just one opinion. Make sure to get multiple perspectives before making any changes. All right, let's dive into the review and learn together. Hey friends, I'm excited to see you today. I'm here with Georgina's portfolio, and Georgina, thank you so much for allowing me the chance to review your portfolio. I think it looks good. Let me move my face out of the way because I feel like the content's going to be over here on the left. This looks good. This looks really good so far. I even noticed that it's got some good parallax action. Who doesn't love that? So I will say one thing kind of struck me right away, and y'all, you have to work with me here. I am 42 and learning that your body doesn't just, stay amazing as you get older. And I can't tell if this is just really small text or if I'm just being obnoxious. So let's see. Do we have a text size? Oh, look, Chrome's telling me something's new. Thanks so much. Font size. Okay. It's at a 14 pixel, and that might be what you really appreciate. However, consider that maybe not recruiters necessarily, but hiring, look, I'm not trying to put any ageism over here, but I will say I wear assistive technology for a reason, and maybe that's a little bit on the small side. I like how you're using balance. It does feel like maybe we have a lot of space we're using, or a lot of space that we're not using over here. So I love the parallax effect, but this makes it really difficult to read. So just calling it out. You care about improving services that genuinely help people, prioritizing their needs and experiences. I'm committed to diversity and feminist values. Ooh, I love that we're putting that right out there in front. I aim to create inclusive designs that consider everyone. I understand the impact of design on society and strive to create positive change through my work. Georgina, I'm already a fan. Let me tell you, I'm your number one fan already. This is fantastic. Okay. So you've got my projects. Dive into these case studies to understand how I tackle UX design. These projects demonstrate how I create user-focused solutions from planning and designing to bringing ideas to life. Okay. Easing workflows, enabling task movement between groups. That is helpful. Easing workflows. That tells me that you're already making the user experience better and user-friendly, which is something that you remember, it's table stakes. So this is really good UX writing for your title. Design project for SnapFix, a task management tool with 400 plus global customers. Amazing. Now, I'm super curious because that feels a little low for a SaaS product, but I don't actually know what it is. And it could be something that's maybe your 400 customers are actually like companies, and there are actually many more users. So I might be conflating users and customers. So is there a better way to explain that? Maybe. Let's see. Streamlined information for users all in one place. Reggae band from Valencia. Love it. Simplifying hotel booking in a world of options. Yes. Okay, cool. Bootcamp project for UX Design Institute. And then we've got our get in touch. All right. I love this. I'm going to go with your first one because privacy bias, but also it looks like it is a real project. So that's exciting. Easing workflows. And then we have a big visual at the top. Doesn't tell me a ton about what I'm looking at here, but it is visually striking. So that's nice. You might bring that up a little bit with the title and give me a little bit more content to make me want to scroll a little bit further, because immediately it's not terribly exciting. This feels a little unbalanced. I might swap this content. This is a headline, research and design of the feature to move tasks between groups. I would push that over to the left-hand side. This is not the most important information, but you're putting it at the top left. And I believe when I looked at your resume, you're in Europe, you're in Spain, And possibly, I am definitely taking that because you are a fluent speaker of Catalan and also an advanced speaker of Portuguese. So I noticed that. So the reason I bring this up is because we're in European-centric, America-centric. We read languages. We read more English Romance languages, and those are typically presented from the top of the page to the bottom and from left to right. So your primary, most important information should take up this left-hand side, but you're actually taking a whole bunch of space and giving it to the client, the type of project, and the timeline, which isn't really helpful for that hiring manager who only has 15 to 30 seconds to know whether or not they want to call you up for an interview. So give them that information, that really important information, a little bit closer to upfront. So I would scooch this to the left and move this lesser important information over to the right. So your design project for SnapFix, a task management tool with 400 plus global customers. You did mention in your on intake form that you're wondering more about storytelling and how to do that more effectively and bring people along. So the goal of this project was to research and design this new feature as it was an element that was demanded by users, and its absence made it difficult to work smoothly with the project. Okay. Given that SnapFix is predominantly used on the app, so mobile compared to the website, we first designed the feature for the app and adapted it for the website version. Love. I feel like if you're going to, you want to lean into more storytelling. Now, first I need to tell you, not an expert. There are experts out there. In fact, I am taking a UX storytelling course, and I will link to it below because I'm already finding a lot of value in it. And it particularly, it happened because my boss gave me the feedback that they'd like to see me develop more executive presence, and UX storytelling is part of that. So I appreciate that you want to do that. I will make sure to get a link to you, okay? So what I think now I'm dragging this out because I literally just watched some of the videos yesterday from Jeff White's storytelling course. And it's context, struggle, and transformation. I think I'm going to get this right. We'll see. Context, struggle, and transformation. So you're giving some context. It's a task management tool. I want to hear about the struggle. So the goal of this project is not the same thing as telling me about the struggle. Tell me immediately about the user that's having the struggle. What were they not able to do? It looks like it's been demanded by users and the absence made it difficult to work smoothly. How was that difficult to work smoothly? Give me one use case, one user scenario of, and it doesn't matter who, but imagine that you are in charge of a large project and you just need to reorganize the priority of something and you can't do it. And you've been asking SnapFix for that fix for a while now. That's a way to bring storytelling in here. So it's a task management tool with a broken feature or a feature that does not exist. What is it that people are unable to do, and how are you planning to solve that problem? That's the setup here. All right. Okay, we're using a lot of space here. You've got this GIF, which is taking us through the experience, and then what appears to be a user journey map. And this is difficult. So what I feel like, if I kind of zoom out from this, I feel like this and this on the left. So the problem and the users are working by managing multiple tasks, and they need to contact the SnapFix team to move tasks internally to streamline the process. Well, I'm really glad you're redesigning this because that would definitely make me delete an actual product from my phone, my computer, doesn't matter. But what I think you're doing is trying to set up the problem by telling us the story, but that is the storytelling. So don't show me a visual of this. This is not actually a very useful visual. Everyone has seen this. This is the hero's journey that we're following. We've got the rising action, the climax, the falling action, and the resolution here. This is the information, this is the output that you created to make sure you understood the problem, but you don't need to show that to the hiring manager. So take that out and tell me more about the problem with this overview. Cute button, but it feels a little too bouncy. Solution. Implementing an option to move tasks between groups gives users the freedom to manage their tasks easily, edit options quickly and intuitively by themselves, makes the process smooth and autonomous. Okay. Stakeholders told me that users demanded this feature, so I started asking myself questions. Just asking questions if you're asking yourself questions, it tells me that you're not doing real user research, and you may not be able to because of the situation that you might have been in. But just take out myself and say, I started asking questions to understand the users and their needs. Those answers will emerge throughout this research. I like that. It's not as helpful as it could be. Is this the questions that you started asking? Oh my gosh. All right. So we've got a situation where you're showing information, but I'm not able to follow the story. I essentially have 2 pages of a book open at one time, and I feel like I'm being expected to read both pages at the same time, and this isn't helpful. So are these the questions you started asking? In which case, those should be, we're talking about hierarchy and how things are related to each other. So the proximity principle of design is kind of either being broken here or misused somehow. So I can't tell how these are connected, and that's going to lose a hiring manager's attention pretty quickly. If they don't understand your process, this means you can't explain your process and they're not interested in hiring you. So this is good. Refine it. It could be better. This is a throwaway. Everyone's really tired of seeing these. I'll show you the design process I followed to address those questions and find the solutions that best align with the needs of SnapFix users. You really don't actually have to include all of this. Competitive benchmark. So this is kind of like competitive analysis. This research started because I wanted to know how relevant apps to SnapFix users were moving tasks between groups. Good job. So Google, you mean items between groups, something like that? So Trello is a good example of moving tasks between groups. You could also have looked at Jira. Pivotal Tracker is another one. I think Notion probably has some good examples here. So is this an explanation of this has both and not both? If you're going to use visuals that do not align with how people expect these to use, because you're using a grid, you're saying this either does or does not have the same feature that we're looking for, but you're saying this does and does not, which is confusing. So I would like to see kind of a legend over here, like check means it has it, X means it doesn't have it, and then tell me what the check X combination kind of means. Looked at the screens that appear after task movements and the information they provide, as well as popular applications that are. So Google Photos feels very interesting to me because Google Photos isn't something I typically use. But if that's something that you determined that your users were more likely to have access to and familiarity with, then that's a good selection for that familiar app. I summarized all the information in the following table. Delete that. That's what you are implying by putting the table here. I would take out this part. So some of this is like UX writing. Like I wanted to know how relevant apps were, how different apps that our users were likely to encounter, how they were moving tasks between groups. So you've got some opportunities. One, different ways to move tasks. Useful, as the user may need to use that function in different moments. Okay, so you're saying there are different ways to move tasks, and that should be by default you're including in your design. Clear feedback, ensure the user understands that something has been moved. Okay, so you need to find out what they need in their day-to-day duties. Sounds like you're going to do more user research. Drag and drop, too complex. Absolutely. Drag and drop is something I never design. It's inaccessible. It's actually super annoying too. But it is probably useful for like these native apps that you're using. So that makes sense. Okay, so system setup of SnapFix is a bit complex, which required me to understand how it works in order to create this feature that fits seamlessly within the existing setup. In the image, you can see that each task involves different users and tags. It's important to know that when attempting to move task 1 from condition surveys to a new group in punch list, the users and tags won't align with the new location. This could lead to data loss. Okay, that is fair. After gaining a clear understanding of the system setup, you were able to start brainstorming and sketching ideas. This is the exact same text that you used up here. Next, I'll show you the design process I followed to address those questions. Remove that. Don't duplicate that content. I'm not totally certain that the system setup is necessary. You could use that storytelling here to say it's kind of complex how some of the system was set up, but I understood that in order to reduce data loss, I needed to account for X and then move on. So you don't need to show people the icky stuff in the back end. You're actually able to just guide them through, and that's why I moved to the next step kind of thing. All right, so good. Initial idea was to conduct an online survey, but I had to wait to obtain the contact information of real users. That's why in order to not get stuck, I started to come up with 3 possible designs. You don't need to include any of this. I feel like you might be including it because you're demonstrating that you had constraints and limitations in your design process, which is completely understandable. It's kind of like it's not obvious, but this is the kind of stuff that it's more helpful to talk through when you're actually in the portfolio preview process. When you're taking people through it as part of the interview, it's not necessary to include in your portfolio case study that, remember, this is like a dating app. And I know that that is a very tired, I am feeding an already fed horse. You know what I'm saying? They don't need any more, but I will say we're not getting married. We're not trying to convince someone of our absolute everything amazingness in our case study on our portfolio. We are just trying to get them on the phone with us because hopefully then they will ask questions or we will be able to demonstrate how awesome we are. Give that a thought. Presented 3 options. Love that you presented these. Began with sketches. In the summary table, see the pros and cons of each option. Option 3 was selected because it's simple to understand for users, but somehow your users might lose data. That doesn't feel like the most ideal selection. Was conducted. Share the results later on to showcase which option better meets users' preference and needs. This is interesting. There's a lot of like foreshadowing you're using as part of your approach to telling the story of this. But I will say we could tighten this up a lot because tell me about the preference testing later when you tell me about it. Don't preview it because you're just using up my bandwidth mentally to make me go, oh, okay, when am I going to see that? I kind of get it. But remember, we're getting through these quickly. We can get information on how many people prefer not to move the task. Okay. Surveys. I love this is adorable, but it is not necessarily helpful in this situation. I mean, I like that you include it. Lots of people want to see the stuff. It might be possible to kind of like a show and tell this thing. Like, click here if you want to see what those visuals look like. I'm not sure. Here's the thing. We're also seeing a lot of hiring managers are like, no, I really like seeing this formulaic case study thing because they don't know how to hire early career designers. And yet those of us in the industry are saying, do something to stand out and be a little bit different. So I can see why it would be very confusing as to like, what all do I include in here? It is typically amazing to include all of your outputs and deliverables as part of the portfolio review case study that you walk through. You get about half an hour to talk through things. Don't forget to stop and ask if anyone has questions. But just giving people a sense of get people to the point of here's how I did this rather than just showing them all the details. Here's something we don't love seeing is images with a ton of text in them that makes it really hard to see. I can't even make this bigger. So it's less important to have this visual and more important to show me like, what was the outcome? What did you learn? Likelihood of moving tasks, how many you might move, the different options needed. That's interesting. You could turn this into a couple of pretty visuals or even just these insights with maybe a big number at the top without including all of this data. Assigning users, creating tags. That makes sense. If they lose data with moving from one section to another, which you had a couple images up, create that tag while moving the task is something that the software should do. So this is good. Yep, expectations stays on the list of the groups that you were in, having the option to move to the new location, undo movement. Yep, this is good. Long press to open single task menu with quick actions like move, long press to select one or more tasks, and then use the top menu option. Okay. All right. It sounds like you decided to choose option A. I would rephrase that and say option A demonstrated by the interaction by users and this contextual information you can bring up. You didn't choose that. You did choose to continue to pursue option A because it was the high interest as a result of. Maybe refine this just a little bit. What are these A's, B? Sounds clear with less confusion. Interesting. Okay, so the users who preferred option A found the multiple selection feature useful for managing multiple tasks simultaneously. They compared it to moving photos on a mobile device and found it intuitive. Great. On the other hand, users favoring option B emphasized the need for more noticeable screen changes for the option A, and one user was an edge case who primarily worked with a single task. Okay. This is helpful and interesting. I do like how you did the visual. That's cute. Feedback, I chose to keep working on the option that appeared to be more user-friendly and aligned with the project's goals, which was option A, as it allows multiple selections. Enhance the menu. Yeah, address the issue of visibility. As a result of taking in these user feedback, conducting the A/B test, we made these design decisions, or I made these design decisions. So we didn't decide to enhance the menu. No, I made design decisions to enhance the menu because it would serve users better. So, address the issue of visibility. Yeah, it feels just like, and this is probably just because you speak like 4 languages, having it refined. And this also, I just realized, because you're in a completely different country, my feedback may not be the most ideal feedback for you to get. So like I might be talking to you with what we expect, and I am in the Pacific Northwest of the United States. Like there's going to be a lot of different things here. So what I'm seeing as maybe like a miscommunication thing, you really should be talking to hiring managers that are in your area that are hiring people like you. That's the important part. So talk to people who hire people like you and find out if this is tracking for them, because some of this is just how you're putting emphasis on what exactly you did and how you're communicating stuff. So this may actually be me completely misspeaking, and I need you to know that. So again, I think I say this every time. The intro says this: please do not make changes just based on what I'm saying, but get feedback. And most importantly, see if you can talk to people who have hired people in your situation. So if you were in a cohort of people in your boot camp, talk to people who have hired them just to say, hey, am I presenting this well and communicating this effectively? Because let's be real, those are the people whose opinions matter, not mine. Final proposal, you've gathered all the research information, iterated on the designs, and included basic animations in order to explain better the process. As I needed to present my proposal, oh, God, that is lack of sleep and spring forward last weekend. Yay. Okay, so you've got the prototype. Ooh, I love this. You've made this a little easier even to see. You might consider using a UI element kind of like this to show or hide some of your wireframes, some of your early sketches, something like that, just to get people through the process a little faster. What do you want them to take away? Choosing the new group. This looks good. Feedback message. Love. Moving this task to punch list will result in the loss of tags. Make sure to update this information later. Woof. Okay. That is kind of scary. This is good. They may choose to cancel and find an alternative method or proceed with the task movement, accepting loss of information. That is not an ideal situation, but I'd love to know how you decided to work with that. Like we never want to create destructive actions for users that don't give them the power over it. So like your proceed or cancel kind of leads to a real binary choice. They're like, well, either I move these tasks or I lose data, or I don't get to move the tasks. So what that's doing is pushing people back to contacting your customer service team. And like we're looking at like, what's the real value here? So if the customer service team's time, which is an internal cost, if that's impacted by the the user's decision, it feels like that might lead the company to make that new, make it so that it doesn't lose data. I'd really be interested in seeing like what the next, what happened next. Okay, so you're continuing to work with him. Lack of time. I could not do them, but the next steps would be the following. Yeah, we know that. If I could continue, if I had the time, prepare a script with clear structure and relevant questions, conduct a usability test, iterate, and implement new opportunities. I mean, I'd like to know whether or not this feedback message led people to not proceed with the task movement and therefore contact customer service. That feels like a metric you could actually find out more about. So that would be really interesting to tie into here. Enriching and positive, that's great. Take into account resources available to understand realistic goals. When launching a new feature, it's crucial to start with the basics to understand functionality. Effective communication. Prototyping is not always the most critical aspect. That's good. Real life examples from other apps and clear annotations, yes, can help developers understand the intended outcome. And then key elements instead of sharing every single detail of your progress. Oh, I am guilty of that. I like to make sure that everyone is coming along, and it definitely stems from my teacher days. So that is a really good takeaway. It feels like, yeah, you could benefit from this UX storytelling course as well. So when presenting to stakeholders, it's important to know the audience, make recommendations to validate my decisions, and use high quality visuals. This is great. I think you've done a really good job. I feel like you're absolutely right. There should be a little bit more storytelling. I should understand a little bit more about the users and like, what's the context? What are they using this for? You clearly know who they are and what they're using this app for. So let's find out like who this might be. Not saying you have to create a user persona, but tell me a little bit more about one of the people, or kind of an amalgamation of all the people that you talk to. So hopefully this was helpful. I'm excited. Thanks for bearing with me as I try out this new technology. We're going to see what happens when I click on this. What was I going to say? Georgina, thank you so much for letting me review your portfolio. And for anybody else who's out there watching, I really appreciate you. I genuinely am excited to see your portfolio. Please let me know what your takeaways are. And if no one has told you yet today, I love you and I'm proud of you and I think you're amazing. I will talk to you soon. Bye.